We're live. Ready?
Absolutely.
We're live, yeah. Okay. I'd like to call to order school committee meeting. Can we all stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Dr. Lance, can we have a roll call, please?
Stephen Barry.
Here.
Jeremy McGowan. Here. Jessica Meninsky.
Here.
Beth Schultz.
Here.
Vice Chair Suzanne Salisbury.
Here.
Chair Noreen Poitras.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda. I believe we do not have any.
There are none.
Okay. And approval of the minutes from June 29th, 2020. Do we have approval?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Approved by Sue. Second by Steve. Have a vote.
No, you don't need a roll call, just a show of hands.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Communications and correspondence are all in your packets that were either emailed to you or given to you. We have no student council or government reports. The kids are still not in school yet. Do we have any public participation for agenda items only for 3 minutes per speaker? Anyone from the audience? Okay, I don't see any. Can I have the superintendent's report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Poitras, and welcome, everybody. Thanks for being at our first in-person meeting again since March. So glad everyone is here, and thanks to people who've come tonight as well. I'd like to start off my report with sending our condolences to the family of Suzanne Joyce, who was our former school board member and chair. Her father passed away last week. So to Sue and Joe and the kids and her mom and her entire family, we send our prayers and our sympathy for the loss of her dad. He was quite a supporter of Westbrook schools when the kids were in school, and always brought Needhams with him whenever he came to events. So he was quite a gentleman. He will be missed. I'd like to just do a quick report on the summer learning and nutrition programs. Even though school has been in summer mode for the last several weeks, we've had summer learning programs going on remotely. Kids have been logging on to the IXL software program to maintain literacy and numeracy skills throughout the summer. And we've had our annual Westbrook Reads initiative in full swing, including the bookmobile that goes out every Wednesday, thanks to Vicki Hebert and Susie Brown and several others who are making those books possible throughout the summer months. We also have our meals that will continue through the rest of the summer at our different remote sites around the city. We're glad that program is working well, and remind people that it does continue through most of the month of August until we come back to school. We've been having several ongoing community meetings over the summer through our One Westbrook initiative around equity and opportunity. Thank you to the many people, some board members and many members of the public who have attended those meetings. Regina Phillips has been coordinating those meetings for us. Those will continue, and those are an important part of who we are as we continue our work in equity and opportunity here in our schools. We've had a faculty book study that's gone on this summer. We've been reading a book called How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibrahim Kendi, and that's gone extremely well. A lot of great engagement for folks who've been participating in that. And we're also continuing our commitment to working with equity and opportunity initiatives in this coming year, looking at how COVID is impacting equity, impacting people of color in particular, as well as an audit of our curriculum and school policies that we will be launching in this coming school year. So I look forward to that work. And I'm also very proud of our students who've participated in a number of demonstrations and a number of rallies in Portland and other places, who've led some of those rallies. One of our most recent alums, Gracia Beretti, organized a Black Lives Matter rally in Portland at the end of June. Very proud of our students sharing their voices and being real leaders in the greater Westbrook community. In your packets, you'll see a list of the different school committee meetings and subcommittee meetings throughout the school year. We are going to attempt to broadcast the school committee meetings not only on public access TV, but also on Facebook this year, and all of our subcommittee meetings as well on Zoom and public access, on Zoom and Facebook. We've had great engagement from the public throughout the last several months because our meetings have had to be remote. We want to maintain that level of engagement by continuing to broadcast meetings on social media and through Zoom, so that will continue. And finally, a couple of last notes. Happy birthday to a couple of our administrators. Happy birthday to Vicki Hebert and to Dean Flanagan, who share a birthday today. We won't sing. Thank you, Mrs. Poitras.
Okay, thank you. Chair reports. Any education programs? Program? No? No personnel committee? No policy? So I'm saving you for last.
There was a policy
Yes,
meeting.
policy.
Right, this is a policy update. Policy met on Monday, August 10th, and we needed to meet because we had to respond to federal regulations that changed regarding Title IX, and we need to look at our policies regarding student and employee discrimination and harassment. And Kim O'Donnell did an excellent summary of a very complex issue. And the committee had a very in-depth discussion about the issues. I think we covered all of the bases. We recognize that we need to take a look at our policies and change them. We have to comply. We also had some questions about our own policies. If there's a difference between definitions of Title IX, if it's not a title, doesn't meet the criteria anymore of Title IX, are our policies strong and robust enough to really protect and make sure that we are mindful of discrimination and provide enough protection for both students and our staff employees. So we have some questions, and Kim is going to talk to legal, Drummond and Woodson, to get some of those questions answered. At this point in time, we are in compliance because we are looking over the policies, but it's, as I said, complex, and it needs some attention and some direction. So we plan to meet again September 28th, and I think we all have some homework to do regarding our own policies. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, save the best for last. Finance Committee?
The Finance
Sue.
Committee.
Yes.
We met on August 5th,
I'm sorry.
and we reviewed a few things. Probably the biggest one is the money that we're receiving from the CARES Act, or some CARES fund that we're receiving. We're actually receiving a substantial amount of money from both of those funds. And there's a lot of requirements that go into both of those, helping us deal with the pandemic and our response. It covers a lot of expenses that we're going to be needing to get back to school. Some of those funds, the bulk of them, have to be spent by December 30th, so there's a lot of work to be done to get that taken care of. And we talked about how the administration's going to be handling that. We also talked about an exciting initiative, a solar initiative, that Jeremy and Beth and Dean have been working on. And more importantly, the Sustainability Club at the high school worked on last year. And it's really a great program will be able to hopefully get some solar panels up on some of the schools. We'll see some great savings without any financial cost to the district to get started. And I think it'll be a great thing educational-wise, and a lot of different good things will come out of that. Our accounting manager, Heather Neal, is our nominee, and she'll start next week, right? And we went over our financials. Our next meeting is going to be September 2nd at 5.
Okay, thank you, Sue.
Sure.
Old business? No? Okay. On to new business. 12.1, administrator teacher nominations. Motion?
Why don't you read it first, 12.1.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've been out of this. 12.1.1, accounting manager, which Sue said would be Heather Neal. Do I have a motion?
Make a
First,
motion to approve.
Sue Salisbury, second by Jessica Moniski. Peter, would you like to say something about Ms. Neal?
Yes, I would, and I believe Heather is here. Heather is in the audience. Welcome, Heather. Heather Neal is our nominee after 2 searches. Well, our first search failed, and luckily we found Heather in the second search. Thank you to the members of the hiring committee, the interview committee, including Jessica, who was part of that, as well as many others. Heather comes to us with an extensive accounting background, particularly in school finance, having worked at the Department of Education in Augusta as part of the finance department there, as well as in a number of schools. And she's had her own accounting and auditing business of her own. So we're very lucky to have someone of her skill and her personality and her strengths coming here to the Westbrook schools. So I'm very excited to bring her to you all as our nominee.
Awesome. All in favor? 6 approved, 0 opposed.
Welcome, Heather.
Welcome, Heather. 12.1.2, Assistant Director of Westbrook Regional Vocation Center. Our nominee is Gloria Noyes. Do I have a motion? Sue Salisbury, second by Jeremy McGowan. Dr. Lancier, would you like to say something about Ms. Noyes?
Yes, I would. I'm very happy to announce that Gloria is our nominee for the Assistant Director of WRVC. Gloria is a familiar face to Westbrook. She grew up in Westbrook, graduated from Westbrook High School, and she taught at Congdon School and for 18 years and about a couple of months here at Westbrook Middle School before she moved on to an administrative role in Portland. And then she went into Greater Gloucester, went into Falmouth, where she has been serving the past 5 years as the principal of Falmouth Elementary School. Gloria is very excited to be coming back to Westbrook. Her personality, her skills, her passion for learning, her passion for people are really just some of her strengths that she'll be bringing to this new career path, this new opportunity to help lead our CTE program. So Gloria can't be here this evening because it's her younger son's birthday today, so she's unable to be here tonight. Happy birthday to Max. But we're very lucky to have Gloria come back to us at our vocational center.
I have a question. Do you know when the start date would be for Ms. Noyes?
Monday the 17th.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor? 6 approved, 0 approved. 6 approved, none opposed.
We knew what you meant.
I know what I meant. Okay, on to the next, 12.1.3, special education teacher at Congdon School. Do I have a motion? Motion by Sue Salisbury, second by Beth Schultz.
Noreen, I'd like to take 12.1.3 through 12.1.11 in the aggregate. I can read those if you'd like.
Yes, could you please?
Sure. 12.1.3, special education teacher at Congdon, Lindsay Miller. 12.1.4, guidance counselor, Westbrook Middle School, Katie Corbett. 12.1.5, grade 5 teacher, Westbrook Middle School, Julie Reardon. 12.1.6, grade 6 math teacher, Westbrook Middle School, Kelly Mira. 12.1.7, grade 6 science teacher, Westbrook Middle School, Abigail Harnick. 12.1.8, physical education teacher, Westbrook Middle School, Mike Crawford. 12.1.9, health teacher, Westbrook Middle School, Colin Lovelace. 12.1.10, special education teacher, Canal, Mercedes Bohadi. Sorry if I said that wrong. 12.1.11, social worker, Sakarapa School, Jacqueline Dimick.
Okay, have any discussions on that? Okay, all in favor? 6 approved, none opposed. Thank you, Sue. 12.2, request to amend 2020 to 2021 school calendar according to the proposal from the superintendent of schools. Action item approval. Dr. Lancier?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Poitras. In response to our back to school, our reopening plans, I would like to recommend a slight adjustment to our school calendar for this coming year. What I'd like to do is to convert 2 student days before Labor Day into 2 professional development days for our staff. So the first week of work, or the first week of this new school year, we would have August 31st, September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd as professional learning days for our staff to help them with their planning, their preparation for the new school year, traditional professional development, as well as just an opportunity to begin to come back together to open the new school year. That would not change the number of required days. At this point, the Department of Education requires 175 student days. We have 177 student days in our calendar, so we would still be meeting the minimum expectations for student days. That would mean then that school for students would start the week of the 8th of September. And I say the week of the 8th because we're working on a schedule to stagger students' arrivals during that week. We weren't able to do any transitions last spring because we were remote, so we'd like to provide orientation, transition for kids coming to different schools, as well as transitioning into a new school environment with some very different processes and some very different schedules, very different layouts. So we would be starting school throughout the week of the 8th with a schedule that would be announced shortly as to which grades would start which day. The second part of the request, for years, probably over a dozen years, we've had a fantastic gift of having early release every Wednesday. I'd like to recommend suspending that this year, or at least for the time being, based on our needs to have different reopening plans due to the pandemic. But rather than have an early release every Wednesday, I'm asking that we have a half day for students, a half day of learning every Friday, and the afternoon of that Friday would be spent for professional development, for our professional learning communities to work, for planning, for preparation for our staff. Regardless of how we are in school this year, whichever model we're using at different points during the year, our teachers are going to need considerable time for planning and preparation because we're asking them to really change a number of their typical teaching practices. So this would allow them a little extra time, but it would also allow us to concentrate on that Friday as a half day rather than the hour of release every Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. I wanted Dr. Lancier to lay that out before I put a motion in play. So do I have a motion? Jeremy McGowan, second by Steve Berry. Any discussions? Any questions for Dr. Lancier? Beth?
I am pleased to see that you're thinking of adding a couple of days, and I am saying this because I totally respect everything that the task force has done. I do need to share my concern that that may not be enough professional development. When I think of where we were last spring and the adjustment to online learning and remote learning and distance learning, there were a lot of issues, and there was a gigantic learning curve. Now, teachers have had a break. However, there hasn't been direct professional development to deal with how to instruct and adjust curriculum for this hybrid model where you're having students coming in a very different situation, and then teachers are also juggling doing online learning with students. And so is there enough time to make sure the buildings are ready, and is there enough time to make sure that we have the technology ready? And I appreciate, you know, that people have been working hard, and there's a lot that's been done. There are just so many unknown variables, and I do think that one of those variables is how teachers, staff are feeling about coming back and dealing with a lot of their worries and concerns about their own health, the health of their children and their families. There's no doubt in my mind that teachers want to come back. I know they do. However, as a school board member, I feel very obligated to speak to that concern that this is really very different learning. This is not going back to pre-March. This is a new world we're entering. And, you know, if we want to maximize the chances of this working, we need to have our, as they say, our saw sharpened. You know, we need to be ready for this. So I, you know, I honestly don't want to be a negative Nancy and be contrary, but I'm such a realist, and I just know what it's like to be back in a school dealing with staff. I mean, we could, and I guess all of this connects to the next item, which is to talk about the school reopening plan. So, you know, if we approve this change in the calendar and then we decide to make some changes to the reopening plan, I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse. So I'm throwing those out. I'd love to hear what other people are thinking. Those are my thoughts and my concerns, and I totally appreciate everything that the administrators are doing and teachers are doing and the facilities folks and bus transportation. Thank you.
I also have something to share. I have gotten to chat with Beth and a couple other members as well, and I do share a lot of those concerns. I think my concerns are grounded in, I work with a nonprofit that does a lot of education. We employ a lot of public school teachers from a variety of districts, and I think it surprised us all. We ran a summer program, a 6-week summer program, how much time it takes to prepare. It's a lot more time intensive than anyone was expecting, and I do note that there are concerns in this community and surrounding communities about the amount of time that takes, and as well as the apprehension about returning and the safety. But I think safety issues aside for this part of the conversation, I do worry about the time, because I think it's to not go in with adequate time can kind of pile on to a lot of those concerns and apprehensions people have right now.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Lancia.
I was just going to say procedurally, the motion is about the proposal that was
Right.
presented for the 2
Gotcha.
days this week. And if someone wanted to make a motion later to adjust the agenda with a different proposal,
Sure.
procedurally, that would be the best way to proceed.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
No.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, and second that? Steve? Motion by Sue Salisbury, second by Steve Berry. All in favor? 4 in favor, all opposed? 2 opposed. Motion has passed. I'm sorry. 12.3, request to approve returning to school framework, action item approval. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion with the intent that we'll talk about it.
Okay, Sue Salisbury, do I have a second? Second motion?
I think we need to discuss it.
Second by Ms. Schultz. Okay. Anyone want to talk for us on the school board?
Should we jump right in? I mean, do you want to just jump right in and ask questions?
I would respectfully put the questions to me, and then if I need, I'll direct them to Dr. Lancer or to Dean Flanagan,
Kim O'Donnell.
Kim O'Donnell for answers. I apologize, I had the first name. Sue, go ahead.
I've expressed most of my questions and concerns to Peter, probably daily, like everybody else has. Thank you, Peter, for answering all of them, and Kim. And, you know, I agree that I appreciate the work that went into getting us to this point. My concerns specifically are about if we're talking about a hybrid model and the concern about a teacher trying to teach a class remotely and in person at the same time, what that looks like. And I think you mentioned, Peter, or somebody that answered one of my emails, is talking about thinking of it more like instead of a separate class, like a combined class and teaching, but I'm concerned about that. It feels like a really huge task. I'm concerned about that, specifically for the high school, really all the grades, but the high school, I'm concerned about that, and especially going back into school with so many concerns expressed by the staff, and I'm definitely concerned about that piece. I don't know if we want to.
Peter, can you answer that? Or concerns?
Sure. You know, as I mentioned, you know, we will be providing opportunities for teachers to plan, you know, and to really think about their classes. I really don't want to make for extra work by any means. Everyone works harder than hard, no matter what. But if we are looking at our instruction as a whole, rather than an in-person class and a remote class, really looking at how do we do what we need to do only in person when we have kids with us, and what can be accomplished independently when kids are not with us, really looking at that. There's an old philosophy called the gradual release of responsibility, and sometimes we begin with teacher demonstration, and then we do some things together, and then we end up with students becoming independent. If we look at our instructional plan, our goals for the entire class in that way, it really does become one whole class. Some people have done some work with flipped classrooms. You may have heard that term before. That's one way that we could create more seamless learning, so that it's not you know, teaching the kids in front of you that day and then in the evening teaching the kids remotely. It's teaching that entire class. We're also exploring and ordering some devices that would allow for some remote instruction, some 360 remote instruction. That could be live when a class is going on in person. It's also happening remotely. We don't want students to be on devices for 7 hours a day. That's not healthy for anybody. But we are ordering some technology tools that we could make a classroom environment happen virtually and in person. It's kind of like a Zoom meeting or a Google meeting, but it's 360, so you really would feel like you're in a classroom space. But I don't want our teachers to feel like they're teaching two separate classes. It is going to be a different way of teaching, because many of our teachers already blend online instruction or digital instruction into their classes, like through Google Classroom. Our high school teachers have used Google Classroom for years now as a requirement. Our middle school teachers have been using technology for a long time. You know, we want to make sure that it's, you know, that it's seamless, so it's not two separate instructional formats.
So it's
I
kind of
wonder
like
Okay, hold on.
like a college seminar format, where the professor's teaching, who's there, and then whoever's not is just watching it, but you're seeing everything, right? Is that what you're?
With that kind of a system, that's how that would work. It probably would not be an entire class period, because some things would happen in person, some things would happen remotely during that hour-long class block.
I wonder if we put the cart before the horse, maybe we should say what the actual plan is. You know what I mean?
That
Like, what
is
is
true.
the actual,
What is,
so, because I think we know it because we've been sort of emailing back and forth, but maybe if we said, like, what the actual plan is.
So I have a few slides. I'll go through them really
Fancy.
quick if you want.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to jump right in.
No,
I
that'd be
thought about
great.
that as I was
Yeah.
talking.
okay,
Kim, could you,
I got them.
or Jamie, can you put those up on the screen? So while we're waiting for the slides to come up, I will just mention, we've had a returning to school task force that's been meeting since, sorry, I think I'm going to stay close to this. We've had a returning to school task force that's involved many, many people, about 65 or 70 people over the course of the last several months, to look at all the different aspects of designing a way that we could return to school. Kim, if you could go ahead a couple slides. There are some guiding principles that we were looking at as we were designing all of the possible plans, and you'll see there are 3 different plans in this framework. But all of these, from safety and equity to using expert guidance, academic rigor, and also social and emotional learning, flexibility and communication, those are key things as we were planning. On the next slide are the 6 pillars of Maine's Returning to School framework that were published by the Department of Education and are on their website. These are requirements for returning to school in this year. So all of these are incorporated into the returning to school plan, including a screening for COVID symptoms at home before coming to school, creating physical distancing within our schools, complying with a minimum of a 3-foot social distance when there are other protective measures in place, a 6-foot social distance when they're not, and making sure that our facilities are set up with protective equipment so that we are as safe as we can be. There's a requirement that all students and adults will be wearing face coverings, and that's mandatory. If there are medical exemptions necessary or accommodations that need to be made, we're working with those through our school nurse, as well as through our Human Resources Department, but that's an expectation of the Department of Education, of the Governor's Office, that everybody wears a face covering. Hand hygiene, making sure that we have multiple opportunities a day to wash our hands, either with soap and water or with other stuff. I can't think of it. Hand sanitizer, sorry. Again, the use of personal protective equipment. We've been installing a number of plexiglass barriers in different places in our school, marking 6 feet distance when we're moving down hallways, redesigning pathways throughout our schools for one-way hallways and staircases and things like that for internal traffic to make sure that our schools are safe and that we are adhering to those other guidelines. And finally, developing a clear protocol for what to do as we return to school or work after there is an illness, a protocol for that, or when there's a suspicion of illness. So there are 3 scenarios within our plan, and we were asked to do this, we were expected to do this by the Department of Education. The first is a distance learning and remote operations for all. That means entirely remote learning. That's one possible scenario. Second possible scenario is a hybrid scenario, and we'll talk about each of these in a second. And hybrid includes both in-person instruction and distance learning. And the third is 100% in-person learning. So each of these plans could be in place throughout the course of the next school year. We'll choose to begin with one plan, one scenario, but that scenario may change based on new guidance, based on things that happen. If we need to become more restrictive or less restrictive, we do not intend to stay with one plan for the entire year. Our goal, obviously, is to be in the in-person learning and operations as soon as we possibly can. The state, as you know, developed a rating system, and they're announcing every 2 weeks every community's risk ratings. And 2 weeks ago, the governor's office, the CDC, announced that all counties in Maine were green, which meant that there was a relatively low risk of transmission which is good news. It means that people in Maine are following the governor's expectations. They're following the guidelines well. But even though the rating is green, we could return to school 100% in person. That doesn't obligate a community to do so. It's a local decision of how we return to school. Just some quick statistics from the end of July. The state breaks down their ratings by county, but when we look at in particular zip codes within communities, you can see that Westbrook has a fairly high percentage of transmission as of July 26th. We have a 1.3% rate of transmission, and that was second only to Falmouth, which had 1.31, and the 04101 zip code in Portland, which is the peninsula in Portland. However, overall, when you look at all of Portland's zip codes, an aggregate of the whole city of Portland, Westbrook had a higher percentage of transmission. So we already adjusted the calendar. Thank you for adjusting the calendar. I appreciate that as we move into our new plan. So the first plan is all distance learning and remote operations. That would be the most restrictive plan. That would mean that buildings and facilities are closed to the public and everything happens remotely. This is what we did when we had to close in March. That was all remote. Technology would be provided for all students. The funding that Ms. Salisbury mentioned from the CARES Act is providing funding for additional technology purchases. All of our students will be assigned a device. Families that need remote access will be assigned a hotspot. All of our K through 2 students will have iPads issued to them. Third graders will be issued a Chromebook, and grades 4 through 12 will be issued MacBooks. Our learning platform would be both synchronous and asynchronous, which means both remote online with recorded lessons or submissions through like a Google Classroom, as well as live Zoom or Google Meet style opportunities for class meetings and class learning. We've learned quite a bit based on feedback from our community as well as from our staff about distance learning and how we did last spring. And some of the things we need to improve upon. One of those is accountability. So we would be instituting clear attendance guidelines within remote learning so that students would be required to check in every day, regardless of the platform. We would also return to traditional grading at all of our schools within a remote model. We'd be focusing on social and emotional learning. Our student services staff would continue to reach out to students for a variety of reasons, a variety of needs to make sure that they are well both physically and emotionally. We would continue professional development for our staff so that we continue to refine our distance learning platform, our remote teaching platforms. It is something we are learning about, and it's an active learning. It's something that we'll continue to learn about throughout the course of the year or into the many years. We would relaunch our remote nutrition program like we did last spring, and all of our meetings, business operations, et cetera, will be handled remotely if we have to be in a distance learning mode. The hybrid model, like I said, blends distance and in-person learning. The purpose of that is to create smaller cohorts of children within buildings. So rather than having 200 students at Canal School, we'd be looking at having around 100 students at Canal School. So we would be making the groups of people smaller, so there would be less community contact, less opportunity for community spread. In the hybrid model, we would be looking at 2 days of in-person instruction for students K through 12 and 3 remote days. And in the plan, we would be dividing kids into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Our principals have been working on that as an opportunity, as a model. We're working to keep families together in each group and also keep neighborhoods together in each group to allow for families to have an easier time supporting their children and making sure that they have childcare and things like that, with having kids in different grades in the same plan, as well as having their neighbors and their friends who live in their neighborhood on the same plan as well. In this plan, we would have Group A come to school Monday and Tuesday. They'd be remote Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning. Group B would be remote Monday and Tuesday. They'd come to school Wednesday, Thursday, and they would be remote on Friday. We opted to do this kind of a plan, to have 4 continuous days of learning for 2 basic reasons. One, we wanted kids to be in school for 2 continuous days for a better continuity of learning. And we also wanted to make sure that we provided a longer weekend in case our buildings needed to be quarantined. 3 days is the CDC's recommendation for quarantining a building. So that would be provided every week with a model where we have people in school Monday through Thursday, and then we have the buildings empty for 3 days where if there was an outbreak or if there was anything that needed to be, let the building rest for a few days, that would be possible every week. Our custodians are being directed to do deep cleaning every night and to do sanitizing every night. So our buildings will be cleaned thoroughly every night of the week, regardless of which students or which staff are there. So we felt confident that having 4 days continuous and then having that 3-day remote or the 3-day empty plan would give us our best opportunity for addressing the virus. We also are working with our special education department to bring our highest need students into school for 4 days a week to meet the needs of their IEP, as well as to provide services to them that are very difficult or even impossible to provide remotely. So we'd be working in that. And staff, as we mentioned in that calendar adjustment, would be involved in professional development, their PLCs, they would have planning and preparation time, independent time to work, as well as group time to work on the Friday afternoons every week. So within that hybrid model, again, we would have technology for all and follow the same kind of principles that would be in place for the full distance model. We would be restricting the movement throughout the building as much as possible, keeping kids together in pods, keeping kids together in smaller cohorts, having kids stay within their classrooms, for example, during lunch. They wouldn't be eating in the cafeteria, they'd be eating in their classrooms, they'd be playing together with the same children in the same pod, they'd be working as a small unit. Our goal is to create small communities, small bubbles, if you will, of children so that we are limiting the exposure. We were also, and we've been working with a number of our staff who need to work remotely, who are unable to work in person because of a variety of reasons. We are recruiting additional substitutes. We've just reached out to our subs who have been working for us for a year or more, but we're recruiting more subs so that we can assign substitutes to each of our schools, again, to reduce additional people coming into a closed environment. So having certain subs assigned just to Canal School, just to Sakarapa, the middle school, et cetera, and having some of them there every day as extra supports, or if someone needs to go home sick, or if someone isn't able to come to work because of COVID or because of old-fashioned illnesses too. We would not be allowing any visitors or any volunteers into our school, which absolutely breaks my heart and goes against everything that I believe in, but that's something that we would have to do, again, to keep our community as closed and as safe as possible. So we would not be allowing anyone to come into our schools. The only exception would be our teaching interns who we work with and who come into our schools for an extended period of time, like a full year, a semester, for 8 weeks. We would be allowing that, but no other visitors, no other volunteers until further notice. We have some very clear nursing and clinic procedures, they're on a later slide, of what to do when there's suspicion of COVID or when there's a diagnosis of COVID. We are establishing medical isolation spaces within each of our schools so that if a student or a staff member is suspected of having COVID, they would be there in a separate space until they're evaluated and then dismissed. Our transportation would be provided, but with modifications. We're still finalizing, awaiting the final guidance from the Department of Education in terms of the numbers of students who can ride a school bus. There may be some adjustments to our bus routes, the number of routes, the number of bus stops, or the timing of the bus stops. That's still coming together. And in a hybrid model, we would still have our nutrition program. We would feed breakfast and lunch every day. And we would also be providing bulk food for students on their last in-person day so the kids could take 3 days of food home with them if they would like to. If you remember, all of our elementary schools will be provided with free lunch this year. 2 of our schools are participating in a special federal program to have universal meals for free. And through the generosity of the school committee and this community, our 3rd elementary school is being subsidized by the local budget. So all of our elementary kids are eating for free this year. All of our kids will be able to take food home. In middle and high school, they could take the bulk food home as well. They would just have to choose to do it. They would just have to sign up to do that every day. So the third model is a totally in-person model, which would mean that we would be 100% back to a 5-day schedule following current guidelines. We would be expected to follow. The state has gone into green, or it has been indicated that there's a low risk, so the state is labeled green. However, the state is also expecting us to follow all of the regulations that are in place. All of the regulations being in place really prohibits us from being fully in person because of spacing requirements, because of the social distancing. In short, our facilities are not large enough for our students to be socially distant. So having a green model with the current state expectations really is impossible at this point. Again, there would be technology provided for all, even at some point when we are able to be back in person. We want to continue to blend technology with in-person learning in case we have to go to a more restrictive model overnight, like we had to in March, or like we might have to on a snow day. We want to be able to immediately flip the switch to remote learning if need be because of conditions in the community, because of a diagnosed case of COVID, for a number of reasons. Again, there would be attendance, traditional grading, professional development, and social and emotional supports that would be provided. And again, a number of considerations about staff. These are also protocols that would be in place in the hybrid model as well if we are able to be in a green model. Now, we're also offering to the community an option to stay completely remote, and we're calling this remote by choice. This is an option for families in all grades, K through 12, and it would be using some software called Edmentum at grades 6 through 12 and Exact Path in grades K through 5. It would be for a full semester. It may be a pass-fail option, although that's still under consideration, along with Westbrook credit. So this would be an online academy, if you will, for the semester for our students, and it would still be a Westbrook offering. So if a high school student participated in this, it would still be a Westbrook class that would appear on their transcript and would give them credit for graduation. It would be fully online. It would be mostly synchronous learning as well as asynchronous learning. We will be assigning some staff who cannot work in person to work remotely with students as their supports, as their guides throughout this program, although the program is really an industry leader, really is the standard bearer in K through 12 online education. A number of other schools are using this. I know the Gorham schools are. I believe Bonnie Eagle is using that as well as an option for families. It's very, very high quality. Dr. O'Donnell, when she first started here, started to research different models for us, and this was one that she really is very comfortable with and very excited about, as am I, as are a number of us. Kids would be provided with technology devices, obviously, because this is an online program. And again, they would be overseen by a Westbrook staff member, even though the course itself would be an online course. The teacher would not necessarily be teaching the content of the course, but the Westbrook teacher would be overseeing the administration of that. There's also a final choice that some families may want to consider or need to consider, and I want to make that distinction. Some families have inquired about homeschooling. The term homeschooling means that you are not a Westbrook student. Okay, that means you disenroll, you register with the state of Maine to be homeschooled for the year, for however long, and there are certain requirements for that, but that would mean you are not a Westbrook student. Some families are asking to do this, and I can totally understand that, but they would be responsible for the full school program and the standards within that grade level, within that age level of the student, and they would be monitored and managed through the Department of Education. There was a survey sent out over the weekend to kind of gauge the interest in remote by choice, and there was considerable interest. Over 300 people were interested in the remote by choice option, K through 12. So That's definitely a viable option. And it's also a high-quality option. It's not a dumbed down or a cheap replacement. It really is something that we are very confident in. Nothing can replace in-person instruction, that's clear. That's obvious, but this is a very, very rigorous, high-quality alternative. Just a couple of last slides around health and safety. Some folks have asked about that. We do expect that at-home screening before people come to school. We will be providing families and employees with a thermometer, as well as directions for doing the self-screening at home, and we'll be providing that in the language spoken most commonly in the home. So we will be providing directions and the equipment to do that self-screening. It's the kind of question some of you have probably been asked. You know, have you been exposed to someone with COVID? Have you have a fever over 100.4? If you answer no to all those questions, you come to school or work that day. If you answer yes, you're encouraged to contact your PCP, to have a test, and to see where you are with that. If there is a suspicion of COVID in school, students would be sent to the isolation room, which is overseen by our school nurse. We're also searching for additional clinical support to all of our clinics, to all of our nurses. So if anyone knows any CNAs or LPNs who would like to work for us for the next few months as we battle the pandemic, please contact us. We would love to talk with you. They would be dismissed to their parents if they're exhibiting those symptoms after they've been evaluated, and we would be communicating with families that they must go home. That this is an emergency situation. We would contact the emergency contacts on the student's school messenger or the Infinite Campus list so that the student could be seen. We would encourage them to have a COVID test. And we're fortunate that we have a testing site here in Westbrook at the Public Safety Building. Chief Turcotte has offered to help facilitate that pretty quickly in a very quick turnaround if there are people from the schools who need to be tested. If there is a positive COVID test, that would require the student or the employee to be quarantined for 10 days and to be symptoms-free for at least 24 hours before being allowed to return to school. If there is that positive COVID test, we would be informed of that, and we would work with the CDC to conduct the contact tracing and the proper notification so that others who may have been exposed to that person can be seen. If there, God forbid, is a large transmission, Chief Turcotte has talked with us about having some testing on site if that need comes to be. If there is a negative COVID test with documentation, that person would be able to return to school or work. So hopefully, if someone has to be tested, there would be a negative result and they would be allowed to come back. If someone does not get tested, if there's a refusal to test or they don't want to test, they would have to spend the 10 days quarantine and be 24 hours symptoms-free. And finally, if there is exposure, we would expect self-isolation and testing and reporting to us. And again, if there's a refusal to test, we would expect that 10-day quarantine, and we would expect to be symptoms-free for 24 hours. And again, all of these would be explained to parents in the moment if someone had to be dismissed because of illness, as well as in multiple languages to help families really understand the protocols that are in place. In general, we're still trying to understand the guidance around notification, because certainly if there's a case, we want to know about that in case anyone has been exposed. But we also have to protect people's rights through HIPAA and through FERPA, so we're still seeking guidance and a clear answer as to what kind of notification expectations we would have or not have in a case. But in general, there would be general notification. And if, for whatever reason, a school had to close because of a case or considerable cases, if there's a positive case, I would be in contact with the emergency services here in Westbrook with Chief Turcotte, who's our Chief Health Officer during the pandemic, as well as with the CDC. And if we determine that the school needs to be closed, we would close the school. Typically for 3 days if there's a case, so that we could do the deep cleaning and do the quarantining of the building. But if it's a larger outbreak, it may need to be longer. And if a school or schools needed to close, we would immediately go into remote learning. So each of those plans have to be robust enough to go between them. So if we started in one less restrictive plan and had to become more restrictive in a hurry, we would be ready to do that, and we would be ready to flip the switch if need be for however long that need would be. There are a number of cleaning protocols that we're putting into place with our custodial department, including daily cleaning and maintenance of air purifiers throughout all of our buildings. There's evaluation going on right now of all of our buildings in terms of their air handling. There will be hourly disinfecting and cleaning of high contact surfaces, and in order to provide this, we're also hiring some additional cleaning support so that we can have people in our buildings during the day as well as after the day, cleaning surfaces that are high-touch, doorknobs, faucets, tables, etc. We would be doing our nightly deep cleaning of the entire school with proper chemicals, proper sanitation equipment. We would also be providing hourly clinic cleaning, trash removal after breakfast and lunch because kids will be eating in different parts of the building, in addition to the general school cleaning that we need to do. Transportation, we are still, like I said, awaiting the final guidance on that. That will allow us to build our final bus routes. We sent a survey out over the weekend also asking folks if they would like to have a ride this year or if they would like to transport their own children. A number of our families have said, no, I'll transport my own child. We appreciate that. That will help to reduce the number of people on our buses, and that would allow for greater distancing as well as fewer bus runs. So ultimately, tonight, if we would love to have a decision on or about tonight of where we are going. At this point, even though we have 3 scenarios, I'm recommending that we begin the year in a hybrid mode and then move from there and look at this plan throughout the month of September. And then at the end of September, determine what our next step would be. We'd be evaluating the plans at the end of September, and then every 2 weeks after that to see when we could become less restrictive, or if we needed to become more restrictive, we would obviously do that at any time during our school year. But my recommendation is that we begin in a hybrid model and then work to see where we are at the end of September and then continue to plan throughout the year. Again, our goal is to be 100% in person. We can't be right now. As much as we would all like to be, as much as our community would like us to be, we can't be. Because of the different social distancing guidelines and the expectations that we need to follow for safety. So that's a quick overview of our plan. The draft of the plan is on our website, although there is some additional information that actually just came down today through some CDC guidance, so that will be revised depending on your action this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Lancier. So before he spoke, Sue, you had the floor. Do you have any more questions or?
The only other question I had, which Kim and Peter both answered a little bit today about the remote by choice. And my final question was, and you alluded to it here, that theoretically a student could be a remote by choice for a full year, if they chose to do that. So at the end of the year, they would receive their Westbrook credits, but it would show either pass or fail. So that would mean that they wouldn't have a GPA. How does that translate when they say it was a junior and then in their senior year? What would that look like when they were getting ready to apply for college?
Do you want to?
Kim, can you answer that?
I think so. I think it's on.
So the pass-fail was a recommendation, but the platform we're going to use does have the capacity to grade. They will customize it to our needs. That's why Dr. Lancier referred to it as still on the drawing board.
Okay.
So we need to have another discussion about that. I would just stress that it is a rigorous program. For those of you who've been around education, this company is actually an offshoot of Plato, if you remember Plato from back in the day. So I will be able to provide that information after I talk again with our rep. But ultimately, they will customize it to our needs, so we can assign grades.
I would just hate to see a student take a year or more, because we don't know, what this looks like, and then have nothing, have credit, but then they get ready to go to college and they have no transcript or, no, to go with it, what could be a really great program, but there's nothing, like those markers that we usually look for. I just worry about that.
I do believe we can address that.
If I can just add one thing, we would obviously be recording courses on transcripts. So if it was the Edmentum course, it would be Edmentum English 10 or Remote English 10, and that would be described on the school profile document. The fortunate or unfortunate thing is that children around the country are going through this as well right now. So colleges and universities were very flexible with this current year of seniors in terms of no SAT and things like that. That would continue, but we would describe what that experience was, what the product was, how rigorous it was, if it was pass-fail or if it was a grade. We would be explaining what Remote English 10 means on the Westbrook transcript, because it would be a Westbrook course on the transcript, receive Westbrook credit, but it would not be our own designed course. So we would explain that through the school profile.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Anything else for right now, or?
No. Thank you.
Beth?
Who will be overseeing the remote by choice? It said high school or Westbrook teachers would be overseeing it.
We are currently working on that, and it is dependent on what we have available for resources in terms of people who are working remotely. But it is largely designed for the students to work independently with check-ins. And again, that's a customization we can have with the company.
Anything else, Beth? Right now?
Oh, I hear what Sue is saying about the pass-fail option. And I'm just wondering if that is sending a message to students that an online course doesn't have the same value, merit, rigor as an in-person class. And if the remote learning is, remote by choice, is done in a way that meets our standards and is robust and rigorous, then I think we need to think about whether or not the student should get a grade. So even though I embrace the concept, I think it's very creative. I just wonder if it's been thought out enough, because it's also new to all of us. And I think in a normal situation, this would probably go through educational programs and then maybe come to the school board for review. It would be part of the curriculum. So I just see a lot of consequences. And I also wonder if some students who want to take the easy way out would say, oh, I'm just going to do remote learning. And we've kind of lowered some standards that way. And so how many remote courses can students take? There are some remote classes, like AP classes, and Peter mentioned college classes that are high quality. And if a student gets an A or a B, they deserve to get an A or B. So even though I embrace the concept, I'm still not sure that it's ready for prime time, And so, I think that's what we're all confronting here, is that, I'm just going to, can I keep going with this thought? Are we ready for prime time? Are we ready to really embark on this? Peter was wonderful. I sent out a series of questions, and Dean has been responsive, and, answered everything. However, when I see that we have so many needs still, so are all systems go? So I see that we still need to hire more CNAs to meet the nursing requirements. I see that we need more subs. If a teacher or a staff member, bus driver, custodian is out for 10 days, because they have to be quarantined, what happens to the students at that point and we don't have subs? I am happy to see that we need more custodians, but we need one per building, so we need to hire 6. In 2 weeks, we're going to hire and train and supervise, bring on board 6 new custodians. We need 3 new bus drivers. Okay, we're having a hard time finding subs and bus drivers, and now we need to find 3 new bus drivers and train them, and the routes will be in flux, and I know Kim has said we need to be nimble, and I love that word, and flexible. Yet we can't drive ourselves crazy. When I see that there's a confirmed case in a school, the school will be closed for 3 days. And that's smart, that makes sense to me. Yet that impacts a lot of people. And I will also just respond to this thought about our staff. And I did ask the question about what percentage of our staff is over the age of 50. And I appreciate the honesty, but it's about 50%. That's 46.6% of our employees are 50 or plus. And so far, 71 employees have concerns, 38 teachers, 2 admin, 31 staff members. That is a lot of juggling to do within the next couple of weeks. And I worry about the central office staff. I worry about our administrators. And I don't know if everyone received this, but I received a letter in the mail this afternoon from a teacher, and it was anonymous, so I don't know who the teacher is. It was very heartfelt, a passionate plea for us to rethink this plan. Part of it, I won't read all of it, it's 2.5 pages, but we're simply not prepared to return to buildings. Too many essential questions continue to go unanswered. Proper planning for the day-to-day management is at best loosely determined, and staff are feeling overwhelmed and under-supported. This is not for the lack of DOE's generous monetary support. It's not for a lack of abundance of caring, hard work invested by many staff and administrators throughout the summer. It's not for a lack of caring about our students. But we do have a responsibility to teach our students, and we also as the school, as a foundational pillar of our community, have a responsibility to ensure safety to our community, providing ethical leadership. And then another paragraph jumped out at me, which was, again, I don't know how accurate, it's accurate, this is certainly one teacher's view, but at the very least, I ask that you consider how to better acknowledge and support the sheer and rightful terror that is besieging our already strained staff. Over the past few years, Westbrook has sustained rising levels of burnout, and the climate in our building reflect a staff of overwhelmed and frustrated professionals. We love our students, but we also love our elderly parents, our children, our spouses with health conditions, and our community as a whole. So this is, again, another perspective, a perspective from a teacher. I don't know all about the past and how people are feeling strained and stressed. And I don't see that it's because of the work that the central office staff or, administrators and the school committee has done. I just think we're in such uncharted territory. If this were a moon launch, we would say,
you know, is this system ready? Is that system ready? Is that system ready? Is that system ready? Honestly, we can't say that. We don't have the staff. Our facilities are still trying to get up to speed. You know, whether it's transportation, our nursing staff, and I know people want to come back to school. That's very, very clear. I just want it to be done in the safest way possible.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to answer any of those, or?
I had a question on the remote learning real quick.
Can you move the microphone down? I can't hear you.
Sorry, a question on the remote learning. If it's a separate program for families that have selected just to do remote learning, correct?
Yes.
And we are in a hybrid situation where we have some students go to school Monday and Tuesday and then flip with the other students that go Wednesday and Thursday. The kids, when they're flipping, are home doing their courses online. And we may be having them be actually watching the class that's taking place that day. How, with the remote learning, why can't we just have them doing that? Just every day they're logging into their teacher's classroom or porthole rather than a remote learning. If there's any issue, like Sue brought up, that they wouldn't get the credits that we want. I mean, if there's some way that we can implement it, put it in writing, that they'll be graded accordingly, they'll get the credits they're gonna get, and it'll be attached to the Westbrook school system so that they don't have anything down the road when they're going on to college or something on their resume that's gonna pop up and cause them a problem, I'd be all for it. But as well, would it be just not as easy just to have them, if they're at home, just doing their classes from the actual class?
Well,
Go ahead, Peter.
the way that if we're designing instruction to include some online and some in-person learning, if a student isn't there at all, then they wouldn't have the benefit of being part of that online learning, I mean, part of the in-person learning.
Okay,
So if
I see
a
what you're saying.
family wanted to choose to have their students only remote, and we felt like that was a responsible thing to do because families need to make those kinds of choices, we wanted to provide them with that option
Okay.
of being fully remote. They would sign up to do that for the semester. It would be until the end of January when the second quarter ends, rather than having them just stay totally out of a class that part of it is designed to be in person, part of it's
Okay,
designed to
that
be
makes sense.
remote.
All right. My other, quick question is on the hybrid model. You stated that we're not really, by our guidelines, able to really go green. But we're seeing other communities around us that are going back full on. My real concern with that, and I think it's out of our hands because we've got nothing as guidelines from our federal government. Our state's mediocrity, and it's left on every city or district for the schools to decide what they're going to do. At the very least, we should be doing it county to county, I believe, because we've got, for example, we've got Waterboro and such going back green. They'll go full on, the kids every day. All right, we've got parents of our students that are teachers that travel to these other communities that are now in environments every day, all day long with the kids. Then they come home with their kids, and then we send those kids back to our hybrid situation. So it's kind of a kick in the gut when we're putting in the effort to do this. If we got other every community is doing something different, it's so hard, I think, to really stay on top of it. We really can't, I don't think, remote learn these kids as long as we did last year. You know, from March on, that was extremely difficult for the teachers, for the students. But as well, I mean, before I left today, I asked my daughter, I was like, what do you want, what are you looking for? And she's like, you know, a lot of my kids, which maybe some of the 300, are opting to do remote learning. They're not ready to feel comfortable to go back to the school. And I said, well, what do you want to remote learn? Do you want to do the hybrid where you're in 2 days, or in her instance for special needs, she may be there 4 days, or full on with everything? And her outlook is, I just want to be in school. So if I'm there every day, great. If I'm seeing all my friends, great. If I'm there 2 days a week, seeing half of my friends, great. If I have to do it online, we'll do it. So I think we have to have something. I think the hybrid plan is probably our best option. It's just frustrating seeing other communities that are going in other directions as to how we get this crossover. I mean, if you, like I say, we've got teachers and parents here that work in other communities that are full on going back. They're going to be completely exposed to everyone and every child in there, and we're trying to limit it and limit our kids here, which I think is best responsible that we can be with the situation and, you know, the bag of apples we've been handed. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. I'm just going to say a couple of things. I also asked my daughter, she's a senior this year, what her thoughts were, and she would love to go back full-time now. She did not like the remote learning last year. She felt like she did not learn at all, which is sad. So she's in favor of like the hybrid. Beth, to your answers for a shortage of buses and subs and stuff like that, that's been an ongoing, my personal thing, an ongoing issue between schools. All school districts have been short on bus drivers and substitutes. The CNAs is something a little bit different. We never ran into that issues. You might see a shortage right now because CNAs in the nursing homes and in hospitals are being overworked. So to get them into the school might be nice for them instead of doing PDM at a nursing home. They might be willing now to come to a school to make a little extra cash. I know a lot of CNAs. My sister is one. She might be looking and doing that. So, me being an essential worker, I have not had time off until last week. I finally took 3 days off since this all happened. And all the unknowns that are out there that parents are facing and teachers who have not been in the workforce during all this, I walked into it blindly. We did not have anything in plan. We got thrown at us hand sanitizer 2 days afterwards, thrown on our desk. We had a shortage of hand sanitizer when it all first came out. To this day, we still have unknowns at my job. We have had cases, but luckily there were remote areas in our facility, so that was nice, thank God. But it's the unknown. Even if we postpone this or anything, those still unknowns are still, in my opinion, it's going to be there in October or November. I do believe it's going to be a lot of work for the teachers. But it seems to me like we're going to have a lot of people doing homeschooling, remote, so that's going to help a little bit on some of the teachers on their learning. But I think a lot of the kids are going to embrace it and help the teachers out with, you know, like my daughter knows that all her teachers, the sacrifice they are making to teach her, and she's not going to give them like a hard time. I'm not going to say kids are. But I say they're going to help the teachers out with learning, even at remote learning. She misses her teachers. She misses the admins at school. That's just my say on it. Anyone else?
Right. I have 2
Jessica.
questions. So I have one question is about the all remote option, and the other is about safety. And the question about the all remote option is that for students who initially select the all remote option, do they have the opportunity to change course during the school year, or is that a commitment for the year?
Kim, can you answer that, please?
We are asking that is a commitment for the first half of the year, the first semester.
Okay, so there is a chance to kind of go back after Christmas
that
or something.
semester,
Okay.
yes.
And then the second is about safety parameters for the proposed in-person. So this fall's proposed in-person days will be really the longest continuous amount of time most of our students and staff have been required to wear a mask or socially distance. And I know a number of local youth development organizations had done in-person programming this summer, and a lot of them, and this is just anecdotal, I don't have data or anything to support this, but there are a lot of stories coming out about people struggling to manage students' adherence to masks and social distancing requirements. And so my question is, I'd love to hear the district's thoughts on that. And if we encounter a struggle in our schools to get, especially the younger children, because that's really where I'm most concerned, but I think for older children and adults too, it's the longer you're in a space, it's not a targeted errand, you're there for hours. What kind of adjustments would we anticipate to a return to school plan if we're seeing a pattern? Would we wait till the end of September, or would we respond more immediately?
Dr. Lance, you can answer that.
I'm struggling with my mask right now.
Yeah, I mean, we all are.
Yeah, we all are. We would absolutely be looking at, but when I say we commit to a model for the month of September, that's in the most ideal world.
Right.
Obviously, if something happens or if something comes up or we see a flaw in that plan immediately, we're going to react immediately, most definitely. We're also looking at, here I go again, and I shouldn't be doing that. We're also looking at schedules in our schools that provide, for example, more passing time between classes and staggered passing time between classes. We're building schedules where students can have breaks outdoors for as long as we can outdoors, and we're ordering canopies, like the party tent canopies for outdoors, so that we can have mask breaks outside, obviously still following the guidelines. It's 100 people outside, but different quadrants of numbers of people and spaces, but we would be providing more of that opportunity for kids to not have their masks on, for adults as well. And those are individual schedules that are happening within buildings, but that's an important piece of this puzzle too, because just as we don't want kids to be on a screen for 7 hours, we know we also don't want people to be struggling with the face mask. We are providing face masks for everybody, 2 for every student, 2 for every employee. We're also providing shields for certain employees who have high contact jobs or job responsibilities, as well as for students who cannot wear face covering for medical reasons. There are some clear masks that we're having available. For example, our speech clinicians have a hard time teaching articulation if the student can't see her mouth. So we're trying to provide a variety of options, and we're also allowing families or employees to have their own face mask as long as they still meet guidelines, and also follow the dress code guidelines, nothing that would be offensive to anybody else, just as we would do with t-shirts or other clothing. But having those opportunities to be outside, I think, is essential, and we would want to, I'm really hoping for a very nice fall so that we can be outside as long as we can, and even going longer, really creating some outdoor learning spaces that we've talked about, we've kind of dreamed about, really looking at ways to provide some outdoor education for breaks, as well as for some extended periods of times being outdoors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Sue?
Sorry to bring it back to this, but I did want to make a comment about the letter that we received that Beth mentioned. I just want to read you another part. It says, towards the end, it says, "Finally, please ask yourself what you will feel when one of our Westbrook students or staff members gets COVID, perhaps dying. Will you brush it off and chalk it up to the necessary risk we all took in doing what was necessary? Will you just offer condolences and ask that we push forward, waiting to go remote until the state gives us a red categorization? Or will you acknowledge that it was preventable, that we could have at least kept our community from contracting the virus because of school? How will you regain the trust of hundreds of staff and families? How will we repair a broken community?" I think I really wanted to address that because I want to make it clear that if anybody got COVID, staff, student, family members, I can't speak for everybody, but I'll be devastated. Whether they're just very small symptoms or, God forbid, somebody died, I would be devastated. And I wouldn't be able to forgive myself. I don't think this is preventable. I think we're doing everything that we can to the best of our ability in this time of need that we have no example to follow. We're doing the same thing that all the schools around us are doing, all the schools throughout the state. We're trying to be careful and we're trying to do our best job. Is it preventable? No, because we only have our students for 7 hours a day. And the minute they leave, We don't know what they're doing, their home, their work, their, whatever they're doing after that, and when they come back in the next day. And that's why we have these things in place, the cleaning, the face masks, everything that we can possibly do, because our goal is to educate our students. And now we're adding this other layer of safety on. I hate it that we're in this position. My mom has been inside our house since March. We just went to camp last week. She just hugged me 2 weeks ago for the first time, and she lives with me. It's affecting everybody, and I wish that we could keep everybody in a bubble and keep everybody safe, but we can't. And I really feel like we're doing the best that we can. There is no right answer, there's a right now answer, and I feel like this administration and the staff is doing the best job that they can to educate our students, and at the same time, keep them safe from this pandemic.
What's that? I'm just going to go off of that. I want to say thank you for saying that. In that letter, it said that you didn't want to go through red. The state put us in green, and that means we could have gone back fully. But Dr. Lancey and the administrators didn't think that was a right fit for the Westbrook school community. And that's why I like the hybrid mode. We're going baby step, 2 days at school, 3 days at home, which I think is good. And it is hard. I would be devastated if a person got it or, God forbid, like Sue said, died from it. It's an unknown out there. Like I said before, I have family members in the nursing field. I'm an essential worker. Mr. Berry's also an essential worker. I fear every day when I go to work that I'm going to come home and give it to my family, my 2 kids, my husband. I haven't seen my family, my sisters at all, since December. They live right here in the greater Portland area, but we don't want to risk it because they know I'm an essential worker and that my risk is high. I have to deal with the public. I'm dealing with people from out of state coming up here. That's how risk mine is. I'm not just dealing with people from the community. I'm dealing with out-of-staters. So my risk is even higher that I'm coming home to my family. But I follow protocols all the time. I hand sanitize. My kids, my husband do not come in my house. Their shoes are off. There's hand sanitizer, and they go right to my kitchen sink, and they are washing their hands for 1 minute. So I'm doing everything I can to prevent it from happening, and that's what I'm hoping. And Dr. Lancey and the administrators have everything I'm seeing prepared for that. And I appreciate all your hard work and the administrators, like what you're doing to get ready for school opening, whatever it's going to be, to keep our staff and our kids safe as much as we can. But it's also the community. Beth, you had your hand up. Did you want to say?
Go ahead, Steve. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I think that, you know, we all have stories, I mean, of our family members and elderly parents. I guess what I see that teachers want to come back, Noreen. I mean, I don't think it's the fact that they are reluctant to come back. They want to be those essential workers. Yet, sometimes we tend to think of schools as being a business, but schools are unique in the sense that you don't have the same rules and procedures that a business has. Like, for example, if you were going to open up a new store, or I'm just saying, you know, a store had an explosion or something, you wouldn't say, okay, we've got some things in place. You would say, okay, this is what we have to do to make sure everyone is safe to go back. And I do think the hybrid model is a good one. It's a good mix. I'd like to make sure that we have done everything that we can do to make sure that the students are safe and the community is safe, and that the teachers have the most opportunity to really be prepared, and the staff. I mean, we've already talked about all the new people that we need to hire. And so I guess it's not the concept, it's really, I think, the timeline and the training that's needed to make sure that, as I said in the beginning, kind of almost all of the systems are a go, and we can do it as smoothly and safely as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Hi, I'll be honest with you, I'm absolutely scared to death to send our kids to school. I'm an essential worker, and I have my temperature taken every morning walking through. And I've been doing that since March, something like that. But I have no kids in school right now. Mine are all grown, but it would tear me to death if one of our kids came down with anything or brought it home to their parents or their grandparents or anything. And I just want to make sure that we're not rushing into anything. I want to make sure everything is T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and everything before we go into this. Because the whole nation, we're going in this blind. We have no leadership from Washington at all. And I'm scared to death. I am absolutely scared to death. And I know we've been very fortunate up here in the state of Maine. A lot of people's wearing masks, going in stores and out of stores. There are some of those people that choose not to, well, then stay outside. But we are very fortunate up here in the state of Maine. We're not Boston, thank God we're not New York, and we're not the South. It's a mess down there. But I just don't want to rush it at all, at all. I am very afraid. Even one child comes down with it, that would be absolutely devastating to me. And if we can just take our time, getting into this. The hybrid plan looks very good, 2 on, 3 off. That looks very good. I'm not into 100% yet. That probably won't be around until a vaccination comes around, probably the 2nd round, or if not the 3rd round. But no, I just want to take it nice and slow for the kids. That's all. And if we have to go remote first, because it's been a beautiful summer. Some of us have enjoyed it. Some of us have not. Winter's coming, and we're going to have flu season. And God help us. You're not going to know. It's going to be a mess, the way I see it. Starting in November and October, and right through until spring again. But I just do not want to rush this getting into school at all. And if we can postpone it a few weeks, make sure everybody's in line. We've hired everybody we can. If we have to go up, if we have to open contracts to give people more money, let's do it. I mean, we have to. If we need bus drivers, substitutes, do what we have to do for the safety of the children. That's my main concern at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I just want to say that my line of thinking is very similar to Steve and Beth's. I think even a couple more weeks could do a world of good in terms of preparedness, especially in terms of making the key hires that you need to make to ensure a lot of these safety protocols can go forth. And I think, just also there's this emotional aspect to it, I think. And, when we got the letter from the Westbrook teacher, I've heard these sentiments elsewhere, but to hear it from someone within our district really touched me. And I think it would allow folks to return with more confidence, having really solid answers to a lot of the questions that are going to come up from parents when they kind of get word from their children on how things are going at school and what the plan is. I think that would do a world of good in terms of allowing people to really focus on the work that they need to do while they're there in the building. Because I am concerned about the emotional aspects of this. This is going to look very different for children. And if there's any kind of, unanswered questions or ambiguity, I think it's going to be terrifying for a lot of families and children. And to be able to have more solid answers and know that you have what you need in order to do this in a truly safe manner, I think it's really important for this community.
Can I just clarify what we're
Thank you,
voting
Jessica.
on, so maybe that would help?
What was that?
Can we just, let's clarify what we're like voting on and what, like, the next steps would be, so then that way,
I believe we were voting on the hybrid model. Am I correct?
we're voting on the full draft of all three, right?
It's the full
Full
draft
draft.
of the entire framework, so red, yellow, and green, or 100% hybrid or all remote. May I mention something?
Go ahead.
Too, is kind of connected with what Ms. Salisbury was saying. We still do have a few weeks before the start of the school year, and things could certainly change. If there's a reason why we're not ready, we're not going to open, and that would be my recommendation. If, for example, we're having some ventilation assessments done within our buildings, if there's a reason why a building or buildings can't open physically, I'm going to come back to you and say we can't open just yet, or we have to open in remote. Or if we don't have enough staff to teach, I'll have to come back to you and say we can't open right now, we have to be remote. Or if we're not able to hire CNAs, which I think are going to be essential workers for us to open, or additional custodians, I'm going to have to come back and say we can't open. My hope is that we'll be able to, and my intention is that we'll be able to open the week of the 8th and stagger that, with different kids coming in different days. It wouldn't be the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that week because of Labor Day anyway. That would be kind of orientation, different grade levels, different days. Different days. The plan would be to really start full-on hybrid on the 14th, but if we're not ready to do that, I'll come back to you and say we can't do that, and we need to put it off another week. We may have to start remote if we're not able to physically do it. I'm pretty confident that we can do it, and we can be ready, and we're searching for those folks right now, and we've got some other accommodations ready to roll in the interim. I do have a concern if we keep pushing it off. From a teaching perspective, the longer we don't have kids in school, the less content, especially like in some of our high school courses that are extremely content heavy, we won't have enough time to teach what we need to teach in order to meet our standards. I know there'll be some changes, accommodations to be made, but I would hope that we are not pushing things off too far down, that we would be really causing a detriment to the learning process as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lancia. Sue?
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to, so we could talk about. We're just voting on the draft of this model, of this plan, which encompasses the three. We're not approving a start date necessarily, or a hard and fast. What we're saying is this is the plan. It could be one of three. The draft is that we'll start that week. And so I think maybe it's reassuring to hear that if we're not able to hire the staff that we need and make those plans, that we wouldn't start. I think that's reassuring to hear. And also, and maybe we could make a plan that we all came back together at the end of the month with an update to say where we stand, as far as hiring and plans and things like that. I don't know, just a suggestion.
Dr. Lancia?
In terms of helping families plan, I think it'll be important. Part of the plan is that it is the hybrid model that I'm recommending. So I guess I'm asking for an endorsement of the hybrid model, because families do need to start to plan what their child care would look like, and we need to let families know if this is what we're doing. Monday, Tuesday would be your day. Wednesday, Thursday would be, so that they can start to organize for child care and just transportation, et cetera. But also all the time knowing that could change. And if we weren't able to be ready, then that would be that kind of a change at any point. Certainly just in terms of getting families ready to come back to school I think it's important to let people know this is where we're headed. However, it may need to be pulled back depending on circumstances.
So basically, basically what we're approving is a motion to return the school framework, everything we talked about, all three plans. We'd be approving that with the caveat that Dr. Lancia is pushing more towards the hybrid model to start, but also the caveat that if it comes start time and we don't have the CNAs, so we don't have the teachers, the staff, that we're going to pull back and possibly go to remote. Correct?
Peter?
Yes. Yes, we'll be moving ahead with all three plans. All three plans are viable.
Yeah.
Moving ahead with the hybrid plan with the caveat that we may need to pull back depending on circumstances. And there's a whole variety of circumstances.
When would you let families know, like your child is in Group A, Group B?
We're hoping to be able to do that by the beginning of next week. As we're finalizing, if you endorse the plan, you endorse the hybrid plan, part of that is endorsing a remote by choice plan. Dr. O'Donnell is planning to contact the families who've indicated an interest at the end of this week to truly commit to the plan, which would allow us to finalize our numbers. Because it's not just dividing the school in half. It really is trying to create small cohorts of kids. So that would allow us to know which students would not be coming in person at all. So the principals would be able to finalize the numbers, and then we'd be able to start notifying people next week. And we do have plans to notify people in the appropriate language that's spoken at home as well, to really explain what's happening to all of our family members and make contact with everybody, not just sending out an email, not just sending out a robocall, but really reaching out to explain, Beth and Jeremy, you're coming on Monday, Steve and Sue, you're coming on Wednesday, those kinds of details.
Okay. So just so I want to make sure, Sue, you approved it, and Beth, you second the motion. You guys are all set with the framework approval that we are doing. That's the hybrid with the caveat that he can pull back. Are you?
I just think that's a lot. I mean, people trust you, Peter, and I think that's great. I just, I just think that's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders to make that final determination. And I know that's your job, and you're the superintendent, and we trust you. And were you going to say something?
Well, no, I like the plan. I like the hybrid plan. I just don't want to rush it. That's the bottom line. I do like this. I like the 2 days
Right.
in, 3 days off. I like that. I do like that. That's not rushing it. The 100%, yeah, I saw that in Atlanta. There's 800 kids now quarantined because of they look like a herd of cattle going down the hallway. And that poor girl was suspended for relieving showing those pictures online. But I like this plan. 2 days, it is good. I like that. Kids need that. I know kids need to be back in school with their friends. That's absolutely true. But I want to do it very safely. And I like the 2 days, the 3 days. No, I like that. Yeah. And I do like this whole thing. And you guys done a wonderful job that was on the task force doing this. I just want to make sure we have everybody that we need before we open the doors. If we got to go remote, we go remote. If not, then let's go. If we've got everybody that we need.
Okay.
And like I said, CNNs are going to be, we have them every day, student nurses taking our temperatures, and there's several, we've got 2 buildings, and they're 24/7 at our facility, and there's girls, at least 1 or 2 every day between the 2 buildings, taking people's temperatures coming in. Yeah. So, and I imagine that's like every place that's open, our employees are having their temperature taken, so it's going to be hard, trying to find people that. But I like this plan. I do. I just don't Please don't rush. Let's take our time. Yeah.
Okay, Beth?
And I just want to make sure that you hear the concern about professional development, that the teachers are ready to move into this new world of having students, distancing and then trying to teach them, and then also trying to do a remote learning type of situation. It's a lot to juggle. And, is there the infrastructure? And again, a lot of it, as you know, is do teachers feel confident to do this? I mean, a lot of it is feeling that you're supported and also that you have the knowledge and the skills. And I'll go back to the staffing demographic, just that there are let's just say half of our staff haven't been taught this way, haven't been educated that way. I think a lot of just not being, no age discrimination here, but, I know what it's like for me to get up to speed, and I think the younger teachers get it more quickly, and so are we supporting them? Because those teachers who've been teaching 20, 25 years have done things a certain way for a long time, and making this adjustment will take some time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? All in favor? 4 in favor, and all opposed? 4 in favor, 2 abstained.
2 abstain, okay.
2, I'm sorry, 4 and 2.
And for the record, Beth and Jessica abstain?
Jessica, Malinsky, and Beth Schultz abstained. Thank you, Peter. On to 12.4, request to endorse solar power initiative, action item, first approval. Do I have a motion? Motion by Jeremy McGowan, second by Steve Berry. Well, this has been a good topic. I've been learning a lot from a lot of emails.
Can I
Jeremy, would you like to start talking about it?
I just
or-
wanted to ask maybe a question to Dean. Request to endorse the solar power initiative. Is this the school solar power initiative we're endorsing, or the cities that we're trying to come into alignment with? I forwarded your information the other day, thank you very much, to the mayor. We messaged back and forth several times. He was concerned a little bit at first that we're still working on an initiative where the city was trying to get something done. And I said, well, look, we want to make sure we have our bases covered, that we're getting out of it what we want for the schools and the community, the teachers, the programs that we talked about. I said, I think it's just a matter of hammering it out. And he was fully on board with working with us to make sure that there's that, verbiage, so to speak, in the final contract once the bid goes through, that we'll get, what we need and what you broke down there. But I just wanted to make sure we're clarifying which proposal we're working on here tonight.
Yeah, the proposal that I sent information out on it's a smaller version, so it has 4 buildings, 4 school buildings, and this is not the citywide project, if
Sure.
you will. So call it a smaller subset, if you will, and with the projected savings there, were all numbers put together by Revision Energy, greatly appreciated. And appreciate the work of the Sustainability Club, who's done the groundwork to bring this forward. So yeah, to answer your question, this is 4 of the school buildings, and I think, if I may, I know the city bid opening will be the 17th of August for the bigger project. Certainly, we're not harmed if we wait to see what those numbers are.
Okay.
Okay. I'll let you go, Sue, and then I'll ask a question.
So the proposal that's in the packet is the city's proposal. That's not our proposal. We receive separately. I'm sorry, apparently I read lips. I didn't hear a word either one of you just said. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know what you guys said, but, so in the packet, it says the city of Westbrook, and it lists all of the buildings in the city. But we receive separately information about the school.
Right.
Is that the one that we're approving, or what are we approving?
So it's the proposal that would allow us to move forward as a school, because there are certain deadlines that need to be met
Right.
in order to move ahead with this. It doesn't fully commit you to that, but at least allows us to move forward in that direction. Because if we don't move forward with that, we wouldn't be able to meet the appropriate deadlines to move
Right.
forward with that plan.
But we're not approving this that's here in the packet.
No, the one in the packet is the city's proposal. The one that was sent to you as an addendum
Separately.
is the one,
That's
because
what we're approving.
within the last week, it's kind of coming
Right.
together.
I just
the
wanted to
final
make sure
thing.
that we weren't approving this that's listed here. Okay.
Okay. I have a question. On the, I don't really know what plan it's on. I think it's our plan. It says 4 solar panels. Middle school, Sakarapa, high school, and vocation center. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the smaller project, the school buildings.
Okay. And all of those would be placed on the roofs?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm concerned about the high school roof, being such an older building and stuff. Why do we need 2? Why would we need one at the high school and on vocation, since really they adjourn to each other?
I believe it's just taking advantage of the square footage that's available, because when we walked the roofs, we looked at each one as separate, if you will.
Okay, so if we have to repair the roof on any of these buildings, what is the cost to us to remove the panels and put them back? Because we need a brand-new roof.
I think they're looking at it at the aspect that if it, at this point, in the next 10 years, is going to need repairs on the roof, they're not going to put them there anyway. They're going to go to an alternative site, the vocational center. Again, if we're in the city plan, it's going to be off-site anyway. So I think the winning bid on the program will go to all these sites, and if, some of them have already been evaluated, and say, look, this roof's going to be needing repair. We've seen they're just not going to put anything up there because we don't want to have to deal with anything like that. Again, most of the maintenance, I believe, is taken care of by the company itself, correct, Dean?
That is correct.
So there's not, as far as, no matter what plan we go with, as far as us as a community, as a school, there's not a lot that rests on our shoulders, especially in the first 6 years. It's all done by investors. The service company that we're currently, working with this is Revision. The winning bid could be them or another company, but they've got it set up so that whatever we agree with, it benefits their company to get their solar panels out. It benefits us because we're saving money, and their investors are the ones taking the burden of the cost up front. After the first 6 years, we have the option of purchasing the systems ourselves, and that really, you don't have to do it, but that's kind of the point, is to do that, is to, over the next 6 years, school-wise, city-wise, put the money away, budget plan-wise, so that we can purchase these solar panels and these arrays and this system, and that's when we'll really start to see the thousands and millions of dollars that we'll save over the life of this solar program. So it's a slam dunk for me, win-win-win all around for the community, for the schools, for the teachers, for the programs that we're going to be able to develop. It's just a matter of ironing out which way we want to go. And from talking with the city over the last week and before that, it seems a lot of the stuff that we're working with Revision on, they've got in their plan. So it's almost an overlay, which was kind of the reason we kept pushing forward with this, Dean, is to have this information available, to have some leverage So we can say, we know what we can save here, what can we save as a broader community, and then make sure that when it's implemented, the savings over that time frame in our budgets are accessible to us as a school committee, whether we have to hire a teacher or whatever program might be, it's there. It's not like in the, we're saving this amount of money, and the first year we're gonna go down and cut a big check. That's not gonna happen, but it's going to gradually increase. We'll have amount of savings, so if we say we've got so much money allotted in the budget, but we saved money on our energy programs, so now we have a little extra, then we can tap into that and utilize those funds for the schools, for the kids. I've frankly outright mentioned to the mayor, I've mentioned to some of the city councilors, that I specifically would like to see, as in some of the teachers that have been working on it would like to see, even if it's a big city program where there's off-site solar panels, that we have solar panels, at least 5, at every single school. There's that educational purposes, they're all hooked up, they're running. They're not gonna get a ton of energy out of that, but it's there for the students, it's there for the teachers and the science departments, and we can go from elementary to middle to high school to the Voc Center, training these students and then moving them on into jobs that will be there in the future of careers for these green energy. So I really, I just want to make sure we get our information to match up. If we go it alone, we get our information in, we get it approved, so we don't miss our dates for the tax cutoffs and such like that. If we're going with the city, again, and they've got everything we want, then again, let's move forward there. But if we need to approve this tonight to make sure we have something, so we don't miss a date in case something on the city's end fell apart and we're covered, that's fine. I would highly recommend we push forward from this point and include the city in talks, maybe have the city here and meet in a broader meeting to see what they're doing, how it's going exactly, because I don't have a whole lot of paperwork right here in front of me right this second, but I know there's a lot more details that they have that we may have just got here in the last day or so, which is kind of a pain when you're trying to make that last minute decision. But I'm for these solar programs. I'm for the city's program because it does include us. I want to stress that we want to make sure we're getting out of the city's program what we would get out of our own program. And then there's no reason I don't think that we shouldn't be working with them to better overall, suit the city, the community. I mean, with a system like this in our city, we're becoming a leader in the communities of other cities around Maine that don't already have this. That's going to draw students and families to want to move here because they know of the solar program we have and the solar initiative we have, citywide, school-wide. I think it's, like I say, I think it's just as a home run. I'd hate to see us pass up on any aspect of it at any time because there's so many benefits. And again, the best thing is there's no tax increases, no money out of our pocket. It doesn't affect our budget at all for 6 years. That's huge. Right now, nobody's got any money. And we can get something started without it. Let's do it.
Can I ask you a question on that? You sent us in the package, just for the school side, the cost that it would be in 6 years if we were going to purchase the solar panels. If we went with the city in that plan, would that amount decrease because there's more solar panels? Would there be a reduction in rate because we have more? We're buying more bulk, I guess you can say it?
I think the more panels that you buy, the greater the cost is going to be.
Okay, because I remember, right, it's going to be in the millions, right?
Yeah.
That we're going to owe. Okay.
But again, with a city plan, remember, when it comes that time to purchase it, the school isn't purchasing the whole program. We're working with the city to get it. So it's going to happen. It's a matter of if we want to be on board with the city, which I think we could very well, and get everything that we're going to get out of it if we went along.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for Beth, Jeremy, or Dean? No? Okay. All in favor for endorsing solar power initiative? 6 approved, none opposed. Congratulations, guys. Okay, moving on. 13, important dates. I don't have any listed at this time. Public oh, wait a second. Peter, when's our next finance committee meetings and all that? Do you have that?
Yep,
The next finance is September 2nd at 5.
thank you.
Thank you.
And the next school committee would be September 9th unless there's a need for another meeting before that.
Policy, Beth, next meeting, do you know the date right offhand? Your next policy meeting,
It's,
28.
September
28th?
28th?
at 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll have public participation on any school-related matter for 3 minutes only. If you'd like to speak, we ask you to come up to this, to my left. Seeing none? Okay, any announcements?
Justin, we want to make sure that everyone is still reading throughout the course of the summer. Westbrook reads, remember, we need to make sure we're reading all the time, constantly, all kinds of ways to read. And the bookmobile will be coming around every Wednesday, so Westbrook reads.
Thank you. Okay, request to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Steve Berry, second by Jeremy McGowan. All in favor? 6 approve, 0 opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you.